All right, I trashed that video in which I look like a zombie that I told you about. And I don't know why, but I'm obsessed with zombies, so I'm going to talk a little bit about zombies in terms of the mother in a minute. So what I'm going to do today, remember in class I talked about there are kind of 3 steps to analysis. So you got to get that evidence, and that evidence is patterns. Then you got to dig into those patterns, and you have to come up with an analysis, right? So that's a kind of logical leap in terms of what you found in the patterns. What kind of daring claim can you make? That's not clear on the surface. So that's what analysis is. And then finally, you have the building the bridge between the evidence that you laid out and then the interpretation. And so what I'm going to do, and this is going to be like a Jimmy John's commercial because I'm just going to talk really fast because I really want to get this in quick. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over that same passage that we read on page 9 and just pop out some of those patterns that you saw, and then I'll work with it in terms of analysis, and I'll show you how to build that bridge, okay? So here we go. So this is the passage. I awoke while Joey was still sleeping, curled like a baby on his side toward me. He looked like a baby, his mouth half open. The power and the promise and the mystery of that body made me suddenly afraid. That body suddenly seemed the black opening of a cavern in which I would be tortured until madness came, in which I would lose my manhood. Whew! All right. So, what you see there is stuff that you've already seen, right? You found a lot of these. Oh, and just so you know, I'm just going to pop in and out of the frame here, just so that you can see it, and then I can talk to you a little bit. So, what do you see? So if you have this half open, so you had noticed that there was a half, there's that body and right, that you all talked about. So you already found that. There's a couple of new ones. We have suddenly and suddenly, and so we have the black opening, which we talked about in class, the cavern, and so we have a lot of these things that we already talked about. Oh, and then we have baby, okay? Any one of these pieces could be evidence, and so what you want to do is focus it. One of the ways you prove and build that bridge, prove that your analysis is accurate, is you show the relationship between some of these images. And so, for example, I might think about, well, what does that body have to do with the black opening of a cavern? Why does that two go together? And so, so you begin to ask questions of the evidence that you found and begin to try to piece it together in interesting ways, right? And so what we have here is, we could ask this question about that body. So if we just take that body, think about it, it's said twice, so why is he framing it like that? Well, that body seems to suggest that there's a distance, right? That suggests like that thing over there as if he's distancing himself from it, right? And so he awakes and he feels like Joey's a baby, like this connection, like he could be this maternal figure, right? We've talked about the maternal and what that means to him, right? And how scared he is of that. And then as soon as he has that feeling, right, of the maternal reference in that baby, he distances himself, right? And then it becomes a scary, monstrous thing. And so there's where you can have the evidence. Then you have the analysis, which is that, oh, he's afraid of being a maternal figure. That's what he sees in the body of Joey. And we know that because he says that Joey looks like a baby. And he says it twice, right? And that then it's also this monstrous thing of the black opening. Now, you may not always be able to build that bridge in the very passage that you have. So I'm going to, just by chance, I have another passage here. Just totally arbitrary. I don't know why it was behind here. So this is a few pages later. My mother had been carried to the graveyard when I was 5. I scarcely remember her at all, yet she figured in my nightmares, blind with worms, her hair as dry as metal and brittle as a twig, straining to press against me her body, that body, so putrescent, so sickening soft, that it opened as I clawed and cried into a breach so enormous as to swallow me alive. Now again, we have death and and the mother coming together, right? And we talked about this a little bit when we talked about the woman, right, in the outside of Paris, who comes into his house and sees the dirtiness and the cleanliness and you know, is kind of suspicious of David. And so here we have some of the things that we've already talked about, right? So if you look, we have her body and that body, right? And so we have a clear connection. That's a really great bridge you can build there. So if you want to argue that that body is about the feminine body, look, we have good evidence on this page for that. The two are actually, her body and that body are separated by a semicolon, meaning that they're similar on both sides, right? And so we can begin to use that piece of evidence to build that bridge that he is afraid of being a feminine body, or is afraid that Joey is a feminine body, one or the other, right? And here again, look, we have opened and a breach, right? So a cavern and a cavern opening, right? And also then that creating death, right? So you have the swallow me alive, and before tortured till madness, right? And loss of manhood. So loss, the cavern, all of those things are connected. And so then you can begin to build that theory, right? That totally interesting unveiling of something new. And here it's that he has a really deep fear of the maternal figure, that maternal figure, that fear that he's a maternal figure comes up when he has gay desire for a body that's male, right? And then he fears that that's going to create him as feminine, and feminine is the void and death and all of the associations he has with his mother, right? The zombie. The zombie has come back, people. All right, so I'm going to leave it on the zombie. I hope this was a good video. All right, thanks a lot for watching. Bye-bye.